Starting a dialogue doesn't mean that we will condone violence. If violence continues, the only thing that we should do is to stamp out that violence through law enforcement actions. You would just imagine if under the pretext of communication or starting a dialogue, that we are not going to enforce the laws in Hong Kong, that we are going to tolerate all forms of violence and disruptions in Hong Kong. That will be the end of the rule of law in Hong Kong. Now, in the last 2 months or so, the government has repeatedly given a reply to the demands from different people. So it is not a question of not responding, it is a question of not accepting those demands. But the most important demand that we have accepted within days after the outbreak of this incident is to put an end to the bill. Because if the bill was the cause of all these disruptions, that has been stopped over 2 months ago. So we have to ask ourselves, the continued resort to violence and protests and harassment, what are we going to do? If we continue to tolerate, accommodate, and accept demands because of those protests, that would be a very inappropriate and acceptable response from the government. I think a responsible chief executive at this point in time should continue to hold the fort and do her utmost to restore law and order in Hong Kong. Okay? And I wouldn't say that my government has lost control. Day in, day out, we are not only supporting the law enforcement bodies, we are also acting responsibly to deal with other issues that have arisen. For example, I just mentioned about the possibility of bullying in schools. I mentioned about the destruction to public properties. I mentioned about the downturn in the economy. All these problems require a responsible government to tackle. So I remain committed to serving the people of Hong Kong with humility. So that's perhaps the best response that I could give at this point in time in order to ensure that we can come out of this havoc as soon as possible.